Hey friends, good morning. Hope you're having a lovely weekend. Today I'm going to teach you how to make these tulips in a still life setting. So first I'm putting some water down in the shape of a tulip. It's like a bud shape. And then I'm dropping in some pink color. I made this pink color by combining quinacridone rose with some white gouache, and I'm just loosely making blobs on the paper, basically on the watercolor paper. Don't worry if they don't look anything like tulips at this point. The purpose is to make to hold spots for tulips. I will, because I need to make two different colors of tulips in the setting. One would be the pink tulips, the other would be the yellow tulips. So I'm just not worried about the shape at this point, and I'm keeping the color very light too, because we can darken it always. Making it lighter later is a little more challenging. Now I'm taking some yellow ochre on my brush and making blobs, just simple blobs. I've kept this tutorial intentionally beginner friendly, so you can follow me along without having to know the basics of watercolor. So just make yellow blobs on your paper here and there, and keep doing that to your heart's desire, and you will see it will look like a tulip in the end. So now I'm washing my brush again and thinking of the leaf placement, but before that I'm just letting it dry, because if I go in to make stems at this point, it's going to bleed. So I'm working on the books on the table. That's just my method of painting. I move on to the next thing to let the other thing dry. So here's a stack of books. So the top book I'm making red, and there's some, it's a red brown color. It's not just red, it's actually called red brown. So here you see me trying to decide what color to go for next, and I think I went with phthalo blue here. So I am just diluting it right now, and I think I mixed a bit of Payne's gray in phthalo blue to make it muted. I didn't want it to be like a bright stack of books. I wanted to keep the colors muted. So that's a good trick to mute some color. If you don't know color theory, just use Payne's gray and it will mute the color down. Next is some sap green with, I think, a little bit, see, I'm adding in a little bit of Payne's gray here to make it a little bit darker and moodier. Next is yellow ochre. That's a good trick to balance a painting. Like the reason I'm putting yellow ochre over here is because I made the tulips with the yellow ochre, and it's good to have the same color in different spots of the painting. That balances the composition nicely. Next up is the stems. So I have a small round brush with me, and I'm testing the color and the kind of leaves I would like to make. And yeah, color mixing takes me a long time. I've actually edited some steps out here because now I'm trying to see what kind of lines I would like to make. I always keep a scrap paper next to me to test such stuff. Now I'm rotating the paper because it's easier to make the stems that way. That's why I don't tape my paper down. I want to have a stable hand. I don't worry about the paper buckling. As long as you get a good watercolor paper, it's 100% cotton. It will buckle less anyways, and it's easy to unbuckle it later on with the stack of books. And there's my head also popping in here and there because I was not checking the camera. I was really getting in to make sure the lines are stable and not too shaky. Now this is where I made a slight error, and I will rectify it in a bit. So I started making my leaves with this tiny round brush, and I was not satisfied with the shape of the leaves. So I switched to size 4 round brush instead of size 2. And that makes a big difference. Because the leaves of tulip leaves are bigger than usual. So having a bigger brush, even with a tiny painting, was super helpful. Now I'm just making the leaf shape. It's basically me pressing the brush down lightly first and then heavily first, and the shape of the brush itself, by varying the pressure of the shape of the brush, you achieve this leaf shape. It's very easy with round brushes. I would encourage you, if you are intimidated by it, to just take a piece of paper and fill it with leaf shapes, and you will find the shape of the leaf you like. Everyone has a certain preference. So yeah, I'm just adding leaves here and there. At this point, the leaves and the painting looks lighter. Again, don't worry about it. We will make it darker later. Now I'm adding some yellow ochre with the small round brush, and I'm adding these illustrative strokes, like sketchy strokes on the paper. And that is what really is going to make the tulips pop on the page and give them life and make them look like tulips. Again, these are very small tulips, so you can get by with just making marks here and there, and it will still look like a tulip. Now I'm going in with pink color on top. As you can see, I'm slowly building up the color. If you want, you can go in with a third layer as well after this layer dries, but for me this was good enough after it dried, so I kept it to the second layer. With watercolor you can keep on building up to, I've done 5 layers too in one painting, so it really depends on your taste. Now I have added some Van Dyke brown. It's basically a mixture of sepia and black. If you have those two colors, you can combine them. Or if you have a brown color, you can add a little bit of ivory black in it. It will give you the same effect. So I'm adding it below the vase as a table color. I'm adding it very loosely. I'm not worried about the grain of the table or anything like that. This is a pretty loose painting for me. It might not be loose for some people, but I think the beauty of still life painting is that you can just make some suggestive marks here and there, and it still comes to life. So I'm adding that and washing the brush off to move on to the next color. So now I'm taking some Payne's Gray to make some shadows. I'm also mixing it with some white to lighten it and some water to make these shadows in the vase, because the vase is white, but if you just leave it completely white, it will lack depth. So if you make the shadows along the grooves of the vase, that will give it some dimension. So again, more gray below, just to give it like a hint of shade here and there. Now I have just water on my brush, not gray at this point, and I am making the shadows a little softer. So I'm pulling the gray that I laid on before out with the brush and water, just water. So it will make it softer and more realistic versus the harsh lines. If you start with the harsh lines, don't worry, you will be able to soften them later. That's also a good thing about watercolor, you can rework it. Now I'm adding more color on top of leaves because I found that I felt that the leaves were lost in there. They were lighter than I would like them to be. So I'm mixing up some green color by adding sepia green with a little bit of Van Dyke brown and yellow ochre combined. Yeah, I rarely use greens just out of the tube. I always like to mix something in to give it some depth. And here my initial idea was to just outline it and go with that, but then I saw the result and I wasn't like too thrilled with it, so I started filling it in later on with the same color that I outlined it with, and that looked much better to me. I'm sorry if you hear some background noise. It's the weekend and I have kids with me and they are playing Monopoly, and obviously Monopoly is a very intense game. So I am just continuing to fill them here, and it's coming together nicely. At least I think so. I think now I'm looking what is missing, and I found, there's a bookmark on the side that I did not color yet. So I'm using that same red brown to make the bookmark color. And again, deciding. A lot of my time in the painting goes to deciding the next step, the next color. I thought some golden edging would look nice because this is a hand-torn deckled paper. So adding gold paints around the edge would make it pop, and it would look good in a floating frame. So whoever wins this painting, that's one suggestion I would like to give, is to put it in a floating frame to let the beauty of the deckled edge and gold edge shine. So I am giving this painting away. It's very simple. You just have to be a subscriber here, like this video, and comment something you learned or you're doing on the weekend or you would like to learn. I would love to know what you would like to learn so that I can make more tutorials like for those things. And now I just splattered some gold. So here's the final painting. I added some gold details on the books to tie them together, and I feel like they complement the painting really well, and I just love it. I hope you guys like it too, and do make it and tag me on social media if you have social media, and if you don't, you can email me about it or write a comment down in the video. And please comment down below on what would you like me to teach next, so I know which videos to focus on. And yeah, that will also give you a chance to win this painting. I'll pick the winner out in the next 48 hours. So good luck with that. Hope you have a good weekend. Happy painting. Bye.